It was Halloween night of 2002 and set in a suburban neighbourhood outside Las Vegas. I was 14 years old and I knew it was probably going to be my last year of trick-or-treating, so I was planning on making it worth it. There were 4 other kids in our friend group: Nick, Jonah, Chris and Ben. I remember correctly I wore a Michael Myers mask during the night. All 5 of us kids had brought 2 pillow sacks as to be our candy bags. I'll go ahead and skip the trick-or-treating until the point where I had about 3/4 worth of candy in my pillow sack. In our neighbourhood, there was an abandoned house which has some pretty rough history involved. A mentally disabled man murdered his wife and 2 kids shortly before committing suicide. The house gave all of us the creeps, so we quickly walked past the sketchy structure until we heard a sudden psst. We looked at the house and the front door was creaked open. It was very dark in the house, and whoever was behind the door wasn't visible. The voice spoke again and said, "Don't you kid want some candy?" Jonah, being the more fearless and stupid kids in our group, chuckled and walked up to the porch and said, "Yes, please, sir." We could tell by the way he looked at us smirking that he wasn't taking it seriously. None of us were amused by this and were kind of creeped out. We still were close behind Jonah. Suddenly, the door opened with force and an arm grabbed Jonah by the throat with a tight grip. The man behind the door, who was now revealed to be a filthy man with long hair and a beard and ragged clothes, was pulling Jonah inside the house. Nick, being a big and strong kid, punched the man, which released the grip. Our group all ran away into the night towards my house, which was closest. My parents were asleep, so we were trapped outside with a psychopath down the street. We ran to my neighbour's house, who I knew relatively well, and knocked on the door. The man living there opened the door and let us in. We explained everything to him, and he called the police. They came in a matter of minutes, and we led them to the house. At this point, all the neighbours were awake, including my parents, and it was made a scene. The cops entered the house, and minutes later an ambulance arrived. It turns out that Nick's punch had knocked the man out, and he was found curled up in a ball near the front door. When he was brought out and put on the stretcher, he regained consciousness, and he gave me and my group a crazed and filthy grin. According to the cops, he was possibly insane, and he had a criminal record of sexual assault. I'm just glad that all of us made it out okay, as horrible things could have happened if the man had kept his grip on Jonah. So crazy psycho, let's never meet again. I'm a 26-year-old male living in a relatively small but comfortable house in a typical row of houses. The house has 6 rooms, a kitchen, lounge, toilet, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. Also in my house is a faulty ventilation system. The main vent is in my bedroom. My landlord claimed that the vents were in good condition, but no air flows through them, so I just leave it alone and use my windows instead. So one night after getting home from my shift, I watched some TV and went to bed. The next morning, I planned on making myself some cereal, but my milk carton was completely empty. I was sure there was no reason for it to be empty, but I just played it off as me forgetting I had some the night before. That same day, on my way home from work, I picked up a KFC, and as soon as I got home, I put my food on the counter and went for a walk through the night. However, when I got home, there was no food in the KFC bag. At this point, I was telling myself I was crazy, but forgot about it soon after. That night, it was very hot in the house, and I couldn't get any sleep. At some late hour, I started to pick up on a breathing sound. I thought there was a raccoon in my walls or something, but the noise seemed to echo. I came to the thought that it was an animal in my vent, not my walls. It all made sense now. The animal had been living in there and blocking the air in the vents. So being curious, I grabbed a flashlight and shone it into the vent. It was no raccoon. It was a middle-aged woman. I screamed and ran out of the house in only my pyjama shorts. I called the police. They got the woman out of the vent and took her away. According to the authorities, she was homeless and had been eating my food in the kitchen while I was away. Anyways, after that, I was very paranoid of being in that house, so I stayed with my parents for a little while. I am going back tomorrow, just dreading the worst to happen again. When I was 12 years old, the most horrific experience happened to me. I was invited to a sleepover around my friend Ethan's house since his parents flew to London for the weekend for a surprise party. Being bored and available, I agreed. So I biked to his house with a bag of soda, chocolate, and some video games that we could play on his Xbox 360. When I got there, he had his TV already set up with bowls of popcorn and we watched the movie 300, and afterwards we played basically every video game he had, from FIFA to Grand Theft Auto 4. 5 p.m. came, and we were out of ideas to do. So one of us came up with the idea to go to the park on Ethan's estate and hang out. We found our friends Noah and Theo already were there. They wanted to play football, so Ethan went back to his house to get a football from his back garden. His house was only down the road, but he had been gone for 10 minutes, so I went to his house to check on him. I found him in the living room, standing still and white as a sheet. As soon as he saw me at the door, he ran to me and we went outside. I asked him what the matter was, and he said that he had heard a closet door open and close from upstairs. I thought he was being a jerk and trying to scare me. After all, he did manage to get the football, so we played a 2v2 when we got back to the park. During our half-time period, a person wearing all black rode down the street on a bicycle. But the thing is, it was my bike. It was dark outside, so we couldn't see the person's face. We were very paranoid now, so me and Ethan started walking back home. Then the person on my bike turned around and started riding fast towards us. The person, revealed to be a man from his laugh, started maniacally laughing while riding towards us. Ethan and I sprinted back to his house, where we locked the door and hid under his bed. The man started pounding on the door, trying to get in. After 15 minutes, he gave up and ran away. He did leave my bike outside the house, so there's one good thing. This event shook Ethan up pretty good, and I have avoided having sleepovers ever since.